Namaskar, Mandal Sir. Thank you so much for joining. Professor Mandal, good afternoon, sir. I hope Professor Mandal, sir, is able to
Sorry.
hear me.
Uh-huh.
I am
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Praveen, Dr. Praveen Kumar.
Yes, sir. So nice of
Can you
you.
hear me? Can you hear me
Yes, sir.
clearly?
Clearly. Thank you. Good
Thank you.
afternoon. And I am just, please allow me to share your profile page from your university so that the participants may know something about you. I also welcome your colleague, Professor Devashish Bandyopadhyay. I am watching his name. He joined in my request to just hear you. Participants may note that Professor Devashish Bandyopadhyay is Vice Chairman of the ICI Kolkata Center and is a renowned professor. So I welcome all the participants and other dignitaries also on this session. I'll just share the web page profile of the Professor Mandal sir, who is the speaker of this session. May kindly confirm anybody that this page is visible to everybody. Uh, any participant may please confirm that this Professor Mandals, who is the resource person for esteemed resource person for this session, is visible to everybody. So, as can be seen, he is a renowned professor from Jadavpur University and IIT. And if you can see to the Jadavpur University page, many of you might be knowing that it is ranking very good in the first 5 or first 10 in the NIRF ranking of the last 2-3 years each year. And Professor Mandal has been the head of the civil engineering department in 2012 to 2014, and from 2003 to around, he is professor since about last 19, 18 years, 18, 19 years, and his specialization is structural engineering, materials, and repair and rehabilitation. He has been teaching these related courses. He has research areas of bacterial concrete, geopolymer concrete, high volume fly ash concrete. He is well known researcher in these areas across the country, and he has guided 6 PhDs so far. And as can be seen that this is specific areas related to the research guided by him continuously revolve around these sustainable materials and their performance, etc. Um, and master thesis also he has guided. He has been involved in consultancy in this across the nation. He is well known for his such works. He guides, advises the field and the industrial people. So with this, I stop sharing his profile and request Professor Mandal sir to uh, start his session. He shall guide us. I have requested him to guide us on geopolymer concrete. Professor Mandal sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kumar. Can you hear me now?
Sir, sir, your video and audio both are visible. Yes.
Okay. So now I am sharing my slides actually. Yeah?
Yes, sir. I am sorry I spoke. This Professor Devashish Bandyopadhyay is the All India Vice President. I am sorry. He is All India Vice President East of the ICI, very reputed, coveted post, ICI Vice President of All India, and he is very generous to attend this session on my request.
My screen is visible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Your screen, your PPT is visible, sir.
Now it is okay, I think. No?
Yes, sir. It is full page, full screen, sir. Yes, sir.
So now I'm starting today's topic, geopolymer concrete. And this is basically a part of our project we have done in our university, strength and durability of fly ash-based geopolymer concrete, which was funded by All India Council of Technical Education, New Delhi. Now, outline of the presentation is introductions, mechanism, that is how the geopolymer is developed, materials used to develop geopolymer concrete. I will specifically enter into the fly ash-based geopolymer concrete, their mechanical properties, bond strength with rebar, and I will also discuss about some typical reinforced concrete beam and its application of geopolymer. Then I will discuss about what is the research scope, and finally conclusions. So our concrete and cement industry faced so many challenges nowadays. These are basically the reduction of limestone, which is mainly used for production of cement. And production of 1 ton of cement produce about 0.9 ton of carbon dioxide. Sometimes we are also reducing 0.9 to 0.8, something like that. And cement industry is also a highly energy intensive industry. So we have to need some solutions to make our construction industry in further direction. So what are the solutions? First solution was, we are already in these cases, that is blended cement, right? And when we talk about the blended cement, that is in our earlier days, it was only OPC. Now we are using PPC, which is fly ash based, and PSC, which is blast furnace based, that is GGBFS, granulated blast furnace slag. So this is what is called your binary system. So I have to use OPC and partly replaced by fly ash or the slag. Next development is coming to the ternary system, that is where we have to use OPC, fly ash and blast furnace slag, which is termed as basically a composite cement. All these things are available in the market only to reduce the use of your limestone and to reduce your carbon dioxide generation. Now, if we come to the batching plant, that is what is called your blended cement. In your batching plant also, you can use OPC, fly ash, OPC slag. We can use OPC, fly ash, slag. We can also use other mineral admixtures like silica fume, metakaolin, substituting OPC in cement concrete, because the amount of requirement of silica fume and metakaolin is comparatively less compared to slag and fly ash. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is already available technology. Now we have to go for new cementitious materials. That is, we are talking about is geopolymer cement, mortar or concrete, and it is similar to, this is nothing but your alkali activated fly ash, slag or metakaolin concrete. So that is both the terms are almost similar. One is called your alkali activated fly ash. If we use only fly ash is the binding material. If we use slag is the binding material, then it will be called alkali activated slag concrete. If we use metakaolin, alkali activated metakaolin, or you can take a combination of fly ash, slag, fly ash, metakaolin like that. So both the terms are used in this industry. One is geopolymer cement, or you can use geopolymer mortar. If we use only cement and sand, then we call it the geopolymer concrete. Now, what are the materials used for polymer paste, geopolymer paste, mortar or the concrete. So one of the main material is the binding material. That is, we have to use either fly ash as per IS 3812, or I have to use blast furnace slag, that is as per IS 167. These two are the most currently used all over the world. We can also use other materials, binding materials, just like your rice husk ash, metakaolin, calcinated clay, reactive alumina, sugarcane bagasse ash, silica fume. This can be used one or in combination of two or three like this. Next, one of the important is we need activator liquid. I will come later that how it is required. Now these activators liquid are basically, we need sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. This is a one combination. These two combinations we call your activator liquid. Similarly, we can use potassium hydroxide, potassium silicate. You can also use sodium carbonate, potassium carbonate, right? Now, if we think of this pyramid, I think everybody knows about the Egyptian pyramid. That is also basically, it has been developed that they are using the sodium carbonate for using or for developing such huge structures. So these are basically called your activator liquids. So I need these two as a combination, sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate. Then comes, you can also use admixtures to improve your workability. So if we use the mortar, naturally I have to add some fine aggregate like sand. If we want to develop a concrete, we can develop as a coarse aggregate. So it is basically a two component system where cement and water is a cementitious system. Here, just like your solid and the fluid, not in terms of water. Solid is like your metakaolin, slag, fly ash activity that I have already discussed. Out of a slag and fly ash is mostly used. In case of a fluid, we add NaOH, Na2, that is sodium silicate and sodium hydroxide. We can also add water, chemical admixtures. These are we call as in terms of a fluid. Just like in case of your normal concrete, one side we put a cement and other side we put a water and chemical admixtures. But here solid means this binding materials and fluid means all this including this. That is NaOH, sodium hydroxide, sodium silicate, water and chemical admixtures if needed. So these two are mixed and then we get a binding material, and then it comes a setting. And after setting, that is the most important part of your geopolymer all alkali activated system is the heat. And we have to heat, otherwise the geopolymer system will not develop. That is one of the important part is we have to heat, we have to apply heat. Somebody is saying it is called a heat curing, somebody says it is a heat activation like that. So basically, this heat is the major drawback in formation of your geopolymer paste. Now, in case of your Portland cement-based concrete, if we think what is the development, that is your OPC and water, we need OPC plus water. Then we get some hydration has been takes place. We get a CSH gel, which is the most important binding materials, and plus we get a calcium hydroxide, which is basically it is a soluble in nature, right? And due to the presence of calcium hydroxide, the concrete or the mortar, it becomes a alkaline in nature. Now that is the basic of your OPC cement, reaction. Now if we term as a PPC, let us say OPC plus fly ash. Fly ash has some amount of reactive silica, and this fly ash, when we add water, your first stage is due to this hydration, the PPC which is contained OPC plus fly ash, this OPC react with water to form CSA gel plus calcium hydroxide. That is the step 1. That is what is called your hydration reaction. Now, in your second stage, this calcium hydroxide react with sodium, silica, that is reactive silica. Why it is called reactive silica? As because this silica react with alkali, and these reactions we normally call your pozzolanic reactions. It again forms a CaCH gel. This is the step 2 reaction. That's why these reactions is called your pozzolanic reactions. The first one is called your hydration, and second one is called your pozzolanic reaction. And if we know that the fly ash is basically, it contains reactive silica and it has no binding material, that means if we add some water into the fly ash, it will not develop any binding product. That is, it is not develop any CaCH gel. But on the other hand, slag is a very different material. Slag has both hydration and pozzolanic property, right? That means if we add some water into the slag, it will develop CaCH gel and calcium hydroxide, and even the pozzolanic reaction, that is SiO2 present in the slag, will also react with calcium hydroxide to form CaCH gel. So slag is, you can say, slag has both hydration and pozzolanic property. Fly ash is only pozzolanic property, and OPC has the only hydration property. Is this clear? Now, if we come to that, your alkali activated concrete or geopolymer concrete, both are same. Sometimes it is using alkali activated. Why it is alkali activated? I am now coming to here. The basic is very simple. If we add fly ash or say slag, if we add activator means the activator liquid, which contains, I have already told you, that sodium hydroxide, sodium silicate and water. This sodium hydroxide, which is similar to some calcium hydroxide, which is already used in pozzolanic reactions. So this is react with fly ash and slag, which contain silica and alumina, and due to this, there is some polymerization reactions takes place in presence of heat. I must say here, heat is to be given, otherwise these reactions will take a large time. Then we can get a aluminum silicate chain plus water, right? So this aluminum silicate chain is basically an inorganic polymer binder, which will bind your aggregates, either coarse aggregate in case of the mortar, and in case of your coarse aggregate and fine aggregate, then it forms a concrete, right? So the basic is, we are using here activation of your alkali. Alkali is used here, alkali not in forms of alkali generated in your cement productions, but here he uses separate alkali is added, sodium hydroxide as an alkali, and which is react with fly ash to forms your polymerization reactions, and due to this, in presence of heat, some water is also developed. That is the most important part is here is also that here we add some water in the initial stage and we get some water after the reactions also. So in this case, the water has basically no role in this case, just to improve your workability. That is, water has required in case of cement hydration, but here water has no role in your reactions. So only NaOH and sodium silicate. The sodium silicate is used as a catalyst. It is not used in your reactions. So first thing is that no role of water. In fact, water is generated with time, and that's why workability is increases with time up to a certain level. So this is what is the difference with your normal concrete and your alkali activated concrete or geopolymer concrete. Now, just I am showing you that if we use aluminosilicate byproduct plus alkali activator plus aggregate plus water, which is nothing but your geopolymer concrete. So there is no standard formulations for geopolymer binder. The process does not produce any carbon dioxide. That is the most important part, is that it does not produce any carbon dioxide. Only thing requirement is your heat. For that heat, we have to give some amount of carbon dioxide. And use of waste or byproduct material, that is all are used mainly fly ash, slag, silica fume, etc., and do not require any excavation of virgin material. So we are getting here two environmental benefits in your geopolymer concrete. So I have already discussed it. Now I am coming to your specific area, that is discussions. I am limit to your alkali activated fly ash concrete. So here the materials, binding materials, I am using fly ash. Alkali activator, I am using sodium silicate and sodium hydroxide. Fine aggregate, post aggregate, extra water or admixtures you can use. And I have already told you that heat of the for the polymerization process, and there is a lot of scopes of research is there to reduce these heat generations or to apply your heating for this polymerization process. Now, what are the benefits of using alkali activated fly ash concrete? I have already discussed that use of substantial amount of byproduct material such as low calcium fly ash. So I am consuming this waste. So I am using less energy and needs less than 100 degrees C for polymerization process compared to 1000 degrees C need for cement production. Although the heat is required in these cases, but this is not more than 100 degrees C temperature, right? But in your cement productions, you know about 1000-degree temperature is needed. So naturally, you can say what is the benefit you are getting here. And I have show you that later that what are the economic benefit is approximately 31% in the foreign further benefits can be added further. I will discuss later on this. Now some applications of geopolymer concrete, as I have already told you that heat is required. Naturally, it is very difficult to apply directly geopolymer concrete for your normal constructions. So one of the advantage of using geopolymer concrete is your precast industry, where you can cure or you can activate by heat in a system in a factory. So precast concrete products, the structural, it may be structural, it may be non-structural member for building system or bridge structure, railway sleepers, electric power poles, sewage system, and other products for infrastructure. Waste containment structures, encapsulations, road bases, where you can use your geopolymer concrete. Now, if we come to the literature review, some of the important parameters which influence in geopolymer binding. One is your chemical compositions and mineralogy of binding material. It is also called your precursor. That is just precursors means just initial stage of your geopolymer, right? So there is a lot of scope. There are so many materials are available, so many fly ash, slag, any other materials you can add up and you can mix. So there is a lot of scopes here. Amount, form, that is it may be solid or liquid. Amount means quantity, and type of alkali activator, normally NaOH, KOH, sodium silicate or potassium silicate, with optimum Na and aluminum ratio being around 1 to 1.5. So these are the factors you have to keep sodium and aluminum ratio into 1 to 1.5 to get your good geopolymer concrete. SIL, that is silicon and aluminum ratio of binding material is optimum is 2 to 4, and amount available calcium source such as Portland cement, blast furnace, slag and lime. Sometimes I have already told you that I am using sodium hydroxide in case of your activations. I can also get directly from the cement, that is calcium hydroxide I can get calcium hydroxide from slag for the initial reactions also. Next comes the ratio of water to total solid. Total solid means your alkali salt and the precursors, that is your binding material. Then comes to your ambient curing and heat curing. That is somebody I have already told you that heat curing and ambient curing or heat activations or ambient activations. Effect on strength and drying shrinkage. These are the very important topics you can get from your literature reviews. So now let us come to your alkali activated fly ash concrete. The first we are quoting, we are restricted on compressive strength, tensile strength and flexural strength. If we come to the fly ash source of these materials is we are using your low calcium class F, that is as per American AST, American Society of Technical Testing and Materials. Class F means it has no binding material. There is another type of there, that is class C, which has own binding capacity. But for the class F, there is no binding capacity itself. And this is collected from NTPC Farakka plant. And these fly ash are basically collected from your very fine material. This is what is called your fly ash. This is very, you can say it is very fine and white is in color. Silica content, if you see, it is about 64.97. This is very much important, and alumina content is 26.24. These are two important parameters that are required. And another important part is that loss of ignition, that is 1.03. If it is very high, it is creates some problems in your workability. So these are the three parameters normally checked for in geopolymer. We know that this is the micrograph of fly ash. This is basically your rounded structure. This is your grain size distribution of that particular site and your percentage. Then we are using the sand obtained from local market, is a zone 2 sand, coarse aggregate. Maximum size we are using 12 mm. This is well graded, and you can also use 16 mm if you look at, but throughout our study we have used 12 mm. Now, so just I am showing this aggregate and fly ash. Now, the activator compound, sometimes we call activator liquid. It is sodium hydroxide, that is NaOH. We are using here commercial grade, which is easily available. Why you are using commercial grade? Just to get your idea about what is the available or the cost, to reduce the cost also. So commercial grade is available in pellet forms. About diameter is your 5 mm, and purity is 99%, right? That's why it is called your commercial grade, right? And it is solid in nature. It is hygroscopic. That is, if we keep it in open, it becomes takes the moisture and it becomes melt. Now, sodium silicate, which is in liquid form, basically you also use commercial grade. And as it is a liquid, so naturally this is very much important. What is the solid content present? We have checked, it is a 45% solid, and this 55% is water. So this is this water is just to added. It is not take but any reactions. I've already told you, just added to only to improve your workability. So this is what is called your commercial grade sodium hydroxide and sodium silicate solution. This is shown in your jars. Now next you can say that sodium hydroxide is solid and is white in color. The cost is rupees 38 per kilo, and sodium silicate is liquid, is 45% solid, grayish in color. It is rupees 18 per kg. Now, how to prepare the solutions? That is what is called, normally we call it the molar solution. Molar solution is basically, I think, is some amount of chemistry. I am not going to detail of this. Suppose we are producing, say, 8 molar NaOH solution. 8 molar means the concentration. Molar means the concentration of NaOH. That is the amount of solid NaOH, right? Let us first assume that we have to use what is called your, say, pure NaOH. Pure NaOH means 8 molar. That means this molecular weight is, you can directly calculate NaOH. The molecular weight is 40. So if we add 1 liter of solution containing 8 molars, meaning 8 into 40, that is 320 grams total in a 1 liter solution, it gives your 8 molar solution. So if we add 320 grams your NaOH into 1 liter solution of NaOH, total, that is, we first add 320 gram your solid NaOH, then I add water to make it 1 liter. Water in this case we are using distilled water. So that's why getting is in your what is called your 320 gram is basically is pure. Now if it is impure, that is we are using 99% your purity. So I have to use naturally more amount of NaOH to get a 8 molar. So what you can get 320 to 100 by 99. That is I have to use 323 grams of NaOH in your 1 liter solution. So we can get your 8 molar. This is the basic of your alkalinity measurement. Now, so if we want a 10 molar, so we have to multiply with the 10 m into 100 into 99, that's gram of water in 1 liter solution. So sodium silicate, I have already told you the 45% solid, and in my case, I have varies the solid content, that is the ratio of sodium silicate and NaOH varies from 1.2 to 2.97. I will show you later. That is basically the amount of these two amount varies by weight. Now, based on some preliminary laboratory works, we have about 41 mixes, and we have designated the mix like this. The left hand side we put a molarity, the left one say molarity, and right one is the mix. Suppose we say 8C2, that means mix number is 2, 8 is your 8 molar mix. And the ratio of fly ash, sand and coarse segregate was fixed. It has been fixed for all the mixes, all the 41 mixes, 1:1.644 and 2.466. This has been done by after so many trials. Now, I have checked the concentration. I am starting from 8, 10, to, then 12 up to 20 mm. So what will be the effect if we add more quantity of NaOH, that is, if we add more alkali, what will be the effect? Everything is remain same. Fluid to fly ash. Fluid means, in this case, you see, fluid is water, that is, we are putting some extra water or water in sodium silicate solution. Total water we call is the fluid. So this fluid to fly ash, only fly ash ratio, that is from 0.35 to 0.58. That is, if we add more water, what will happen? Water to fly ash ratio. Water means this extra water is added. Water to fly ash ratio varies from 0.207 to 0.4, and water to geopolymer solid. Geopolymer solid means fly ash is a solid, NaOH is a solid, and the solid present in sodium silicate, we call it as a solid. So water to geopolymer solid ratio varies from 0.181 to 0.338. So all the mixes I am just showing later. Next, I have already told you that curing is an important part. So I particularly do not use this curing term. I always try to use the activations, because curing is basically used in your normal concrete. I call it better to prefer your activation, although in most of the literature you get this term curing also. I use the activation in ambient conditions, that is normal room temperature. We have used hot air oven, that is in hot air temperature, where we have used different temperature and different durations, and also the rest period. I am coming later, I am discussing the rest period. What is meaning of rest period? I am coming later. And we have also tried with microwave heating. That is, if we heat the concrete with microwave in terms of wattage and durations, that is, everybody knows you can change the wattage and you can also change the durations. What will be the effect on your concrete? Now let us first how hot air oven is done. After casting, concrete specimens were kept in room temperature for 30 minutes in a mold, and insert the specimen along with mold in the hot air oven. That is because after 30 minutes it is not possible to open. So naturally, all including mold, it is insert into the hot air oven, and temperature is maintained at 60 degrees C for 48 hours. And after 48 hours means 2 days. After 48 hours, molds are demolded and concrete specimens are kept in room temperature before testing. Now, when we call about the rest periods, so in this case, So as it is the 48 hours, that means your total system, in case of a precast system, it will be blocked for 48 hours. That is 2 days. So if we can reduce into 1 hour, say 1 day, that is 24 hours, you can reuse my your system. That is, at least I can reuse my molds, right? So I'm coming later now. Microwave activation after casting. Specimens, including the molds, are kept in ambient condition for hardening, and it is found that molds can be opened after about minimum, it is not days, it is 48 hours after casting. Or after 48 hours, you can remove the mold, and then we can get the sample, and the sample is done in a curing in a microwave for 0.5 to 1 hour after opening the mold, and testing of the specimen after cubes transform into the room temperature. So this is the what is called your mixed proportions. You see, all these are basically your 8C1. That is, all are 8 molar, and there is a mixed number about here up to go to the 11. Fluid to fly ash ratio is same. We are changing sodium silicate to NaH solution is also remain same. We put it is in this case is 0. That is, we are putting sodium silicate. We don't put it in sodium silicate here. All these are basically, you see, this M means your microwave activations, right? And duration, you see, the 0.5 hours, 0.75, 1. This is for 480 watts, then 320 watts is 0.5, 640 watts 0.5. Then oven temperature, that is hot air oven, it is 40 degree, 48 hours. We are using 60 degrees temperature, 75 degree temperature, 90 degrees temperature. These are ambient condition. Ambient is normal laboratory conditions, right? And these mixes is basically, it is not workable. That's why it is omitted basically. Now, all are 8 molars up to 18, right? Here you can say 1 hour, 1 hour rest period. You see, this hour is your rest period is 1 hour. That means in this case, what is done after 24 hours, molds are open, and then the specimen again kept in inside. So rest period is similar to the hot air oven. After casting is over, we wait for 30 minutes, insert the mold and the concrete into the your oven. After 24 hours, remove it, and then remove the mold. So I am using, after 1 day, I can use the same mold for other samples. So that is what is called your 1 hour rest period. And after that, only the samples are cured. So then I am using the 10 molar, then 12 molar, 16 molars up to go to the 20 molars. So I'm not going to detail of this. Basically, all are most of the cases we are putting in your hot air oven. O means oven. So now come to the mixing and casting procedures. This is the normal casting procedures. Mix the aggregate, fine and coarses in the dry conditions by wet in a tilting time mixing for 2 minutes. Then we add fly ash for dry mixing again for 3 to 5 minutes. Now we add activator solution is prepared at least 1 day prior to its use. Alkaline activator fluid was then added and mixed next to 3 to 5 minutes till homogeneous mix was obtained. So this is the solution. You have to add it like this. So this is the normal procedures in a normal concrete also. Now visually, if you see this, geopolymer concrete is a dark gray in color. It is much cohesive compared to the normal concrete. And if you see the slump range is, we have assumed 50 to 100 mm. Mix can be handled for 2 hours without indication of any setting. This is the visual observations. Now I am coming to the test results one by one. So if we see that, if we add more water, keeping everything remain same, this is say 8 molar NaOH solution. We are adding more extra water, then you can get that as your water to geopolymer solids ratio, it become increases. So naturally the slump is increases. This is for 8 NaOH. It is also for 10 mm it is quite natural. We are adding more water. Now, if we go to that 8 molar mix, that is the molarity of this NaOH is 8 molar, and if your age of concrete, it is seen, it is we are measured at 3 days, 7 days, and also the 28 days, right? Now, if we go to that fluid to fly ash ratio, fluid means all water. It is starting from 0.31, 0.35 to 0.41, right? So if we see that this is for 0.41, this is then it is for 0.35 and 0.31. It is quite natural. If we use less water, we get a higher strength. This is the compressive strength in all cases we get. And another important part is that we almost get at the 7 days, we can get almost 90% strength. So increase in strength with decrease in fluid to fly ash ratio is quite natural, as we are using more water in that system where boils becomes more, so naturally the strength will be the less. But one of the major important thing is that we can get almost 94% strength by 7 days, right? That is the advantage of this. So, but only thing we have used here, heat activation. Now next comes that if it is for your 10 molar, if you get to the 10 molar, the strength is also the similar. That is, if we increase your age, the strength is increases, but maximum at we can get at 7 days. And fluid to fly ash ratio, if we decrease your fluid to fly ash ratio, your strength will be increased at any ages. So this is same for your 12 molar. This will be also same for your, now if we see, that is your 8, 10, 12, 16 and 20. So if we change your molar concentration, keeping others remain same. So we are using here, see here, fluid to fly ash content remains same, but we are increasing the molarity. So this is the mixed number. Basically, all these has the same molarity, different molarity. This is 8M, this is 10M, 12 and 16, right? So what we can getting here, see, if we increase the molarity, the strength is increases in all cases, the 3 days, 7 days and 28 days. But after 16, there is a decrease in strength. And why decrease in strength? That is also a question, right? Now, what we think that at the 16 molarity, that we get an optimum value. Now, why we are getting optimum values? I have already told you that we have in a particular mix, we have a certain amount of fly ash, and to activate the fly ash, we need a certain amount of alkali. If we add more alkali than this, naturally that alkali has no effect on that concrete, right? So that is your optimum. So 16 molars given means we are getting the optimum hydration, optimum polymerization in that case. So for that particular mix, we can get a 16 molar become the optimum activation has been taking place. If we add more alkali, it has no use in the mix. That's why strength has been decreases. But as we increases the amount of your NaOH solution, that means we are going from 8 to 16. Naturally, your what is called your cost of the constructions or the cost of the materials will be the more 8 and the 16. So naturally, the cost for the NaOH will be double in that case. So that's why we normally try to 8 to 10 in this range. Now, it is also applicable to other fluid to fly ash ratios. That is, I change the fluid to fly ash ratio. Similarly, other fluid to fly ash ratio, we also get these values. Now, so if we now for 8 mm, if we change what is the effect of sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide ratio, that is 3, 7 and 28 days. So in this case, you see that here is sodium silicate, I put 0. Right, in the first line, that is 8C10, you can see that it is put a 0. Sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide is 2.079 and 2.76. So you see here that if we increase the amount of sodium silicate, keeping sodium hydroxide remain same from 0 to other values, at all ages, your strength is increases. This is applicable shown here for 8 molar at all ages. I have also done for 10 molar solutions, it increases. So what we can now see here that sodium silicate has a role, but it has not improved the, it is not expressed in your reaction. What is estimated that it has basically acts as a catalyst. It acts as a catalyst. So higher the ratio of sodium silicate to sodium hydroxide, higher is the compressive strength of geopolymer concrete. Addition of sodium silicate to the geopolymer concrete mix only enhances the polymerization process and does not take part in formation of strength producing compound. So sodium silicate acts as the catalyst in the polymerization process. Now come to your durations and temperature in case your hot air oven. So yeah, this is the mix. You see, all mixes are 48 hours duration of curing or activations. This is your room temperature, 60 degrees C hot curing, 75 degree T and 90 degrees C. So if you see that, if you increase the temperature of your curing, keeping your duration is 48 hours, strength is increases from 3.5, 16.75, 19.87, 20.5. So what you get is 3 days, 7 days and 28 days. So the 28 days, if you see here, from 22 to it is increases to 25.5. So the temperature has a role, but you see that 60 degrees C, we think it is more appropriate because almost 80% has been strength has been reached. So if you see here this graphical picture, it will be more clear. Here it is date of testing, that is our 48 hours. Now it is here it is duration, effect of duration. So temperature is king is 60 degrees C temperature. What one is 48 hours, 72 hours and 60 hours. See, in these cases, 72 hours gives the higher value, but then it comes to 60 hours, then it goes to the 48 hours. So if we increase your curing durations, you can get a higher strength at 28 days. Now come to the microwave oven. I have already told you what is that microwave oven. We have these are the mix. This is the wattage and the durations, right? So if we can calculate, that is a watt hour, that is your amount of energy we are using here. So this is only to check that what is the heat energy or in terms of watt hour, what is the energy is given. And it is shown here 3 days, 7 days and 28 days cube compressive strength. It is shown that if we increase your energy, the strength has been increased. So if we put in your graphical forms, it is some of the data are not regular. If we increase your energy, it is in watt hour, the strength is normally increases. But ultimately, it gives almost the same value. So with the increase in electrical energy, the compressive strength of geopolymer concrete increases. Maximum gain of strength occurs at 480 watt hour. And to study the electrical consumptions required to complete the basic aim is what is the energy required to complete the geopolymerization. Next comes to the 1 hour intermediate rest period. This has some advantages. I have already told you that we can reuse our mold in that cases. The time period during which geopolymer concrete specimens are to kept in room temperature after initial curing of 24 hours. Total curing time is 48 hours. So after 24 hours, I remove it and we take for 1 hour, and next after removing your mold, we again put the sample inside the hot air oven for next 23 hours to make it a total 48 hours. So our objective of this test is to observe the change in compressive strength with this 1 hour intermediate rest period and to economize the cost. How we can economize? Removing the molds related to the removal of formwork in practical applications. Removal after 24 hours can save the huge amount of cost where concrete is cast and pressed. So we can reuse your mold in that case. Now you see, we have put this as the mixes. This is 1 hour rest period and there is no rest period. There is total continuous 48 hours with a 1 hour rest period, right? So if we put a 1 hour rest period, the strength is almost the same. Strength is almost the same. You can see for the 10, 8 molar, 10 molar and 12 molar, right? So we can say that if we can make this rest period of 1 hour for removal of your mold, we can get some advantages. There is no some changes or reduction in strength. This has been already discussed. Variation of strength with water to fly ash ratio. I think is already discussed. Now I am coming to the tensile strength instead of your compressive strength. We have already strength test has been done in 28 days and all the specimens are 60 degrees C and 48 hours. Why? Because we have already tested that this is becomes the most appropriate, or you can say the most optimum duration and the temperature to get a good geopolymer concrete for heat activation systems. Now we have tried to develop some relationships with your compressive strength. This is as per Neville. We have used FCT, that is that your tensile strength is 0.3 times FCK. We have also the same times we try to calculate the key. If we terms it is in terms of geopolymer. So geopolymer compressive strength, what will be the geopolymer tensile strength and what will be the value of K? K is normally normal concrete, it is becomes 0.3. Now you have tried with all the 3 different molar solutions, that is the 3 different strength grade. This is basically your FCK strength of geopolymer concrete, 22.25, 40 and 45. Now this is the indirect tensile strength by equations. By equations means if we use OPC, that is if we consider the equivalent of, this is equivalent of FCK in terms of normal concrete, what should be your equivalent tensile strength in concrete? So indirect tensile strength experimentally what we get is the value is comfortably higher if we in terms of your geopolymer, and the factors, average factors is comes 0.34, which is higher than 0.3. Now comparison of indirect tensile strength. Hello, any problem? Any problem? Hello.
I have muted all and will unmute you, sir. Just, I think you are muted, so you may carry on, sir.
Okay. Comparison of indirect tensile strength of geopolymer and ordinary cement concrete. If you see that that reactions, that is your experimental, that is geopolymer concrete, and it is the equivalent normal concrete, you get these curves like this. So next we are cutting that your flexural tensile strength. That is what is called your already that done your indirect tensile strength, that is prism test. Now we're coming to the prism test. That is the 3-point test. We are taking the sample is 50 into 150 with a 3-point loading. And if you see here that your failure load is like this, so this is already known that FCK values, and we got your geopolymer testing values. And if we normally OPC, if we take 0.7 root over FCK, the values are like this. So we are getting, in case of a geopolymer, we comparatively get the higher values of flexural strength compared to the normal OPC. So this is the same, the comparisons. This is your geopolymer concrete. That is the compressive strength versus flexural strength graph. And this is for your available, that is 0.7 root over FCK. If we calculate this, we can get this value. Now next we have studied with bond, that is how the behavior of geopolymer concrete with bond with reinforced concrete. So our objective in this case to study the behavior of alkali activated fly ash concrete with reinforcements, right? Here we have tried only 12 and 10 molar solutions. Grade we have used almost near to 10 to 20 to 30. Thermal activation is 60 to 48. We are using both conventional concrete for compressions, that is water cured, and we are using steel bars, that is grade Fe415. At that time it is available. Diameter used is 20 mm and 16 mm. Bars were under tensions. Now, how the test has been done? Basically, this is normal cubes. This bars has been put inside by some arrangement. That is your basically the bars, and this has been casted, and this sample has been now put in another testing arrangement where there is a bottom plate is there, and there is a this plate is basically this is hold in your normal compression, normal your universal testing machine, and this bar is also hold in your universal testing machine. So this is the plate and this is the plate, and these are inside this there is a specimens has been kept, right? And these are connected with some 4 numbers of bolts of 20 dia. So basically, when we and there is a gap between this top plate and this bolt and this in your bar. So naturally, when this bar is under tension, the load is transferred from this element and to this plate, right? So if you see this bond test examples, this is the bar which is inside the concrete, right? And how it is tested, that is the bottom plate, that is this plate has been it is hold in a universal testing machine, and the top bars is also hold in the universal testing machine. Now it has been under tension. So ultimately the load is transferred like this, that is it is ultimately come to the lower plate like this. So this concrete will be basically supported at the top plate. So if you see these results of this bond test, that is your FCK and the FT is the bond values, and this is your experimental, this blue color is the experimental values of bond strength. Experimental normal concrete bond strength, that is we are use the same grade of concrete.
नमस्कार.
Same grade of concrete.
मैं RTU से प्रवीण अग्रवाल बोल रहा था.
And then comes theoretical
RTU
bond
कोटा
stress
से.
in concrete, right? How theoretical bond stress as per IS code.
नवज्योति के लिए
It has been
आप
given as
नवज्योति
per
में
IS
हैं?
code. That is, if you know the SCK grade of concrete, correspondingly we can calculate this. So now you can see that our bond value in case of geopolymer concrete is higher compared to your normal theoretical bond stress normally we used in our concrete design, and even it is higher from that your experimental value. So we can safely use all the formulations we are using your normal concrete can be used for geopolymer concrete. Next, we have tested some reinforced concrete beams also to study the load deflection behavior in flexural behaviors. Study increase the percentage of reinforcements. We add some percentage of compression reinforcements also. So beam size 100 mm, 150 mm deep, and we are casted beams as a length is basically your spans is 1 meter. And grade of concrete normally used M35, grade of geopolymer concrete. Activation 60 degree, 48 hours after removal from the wooden mold. So in this case, basically as it is done in a wooden mold, we after 1 day we remove this wooden mold, and then whole specimen is heat activated for 48 hours under 60 degrees C. That is your beams. We are using 5 beams, right? Then tension stop, we are using 2 numbers 5 diameter bars, 5 torque bars, 2 numbers 3 numbers 5 and 2 numbers 8. This has been used to make it section under reinforced. These are 2 sections. These are basically the under reinforced, and this becomes over reinforced, right? Similarly, for this 3-5 torque, we use compression. In this case, we don't put any compression reinforcement. We just put some wire. In this case, we use 2 numbers of 15 and 3 number of 15. That is your both are under reinforced, right? Now, shear reinforcement is provided to leg, pipe draw, 100 center to center in all cases throughout. Basically, this has been designed that it is not failed in shear, it is failed in flexures. So these are the basically your beams and sections, and this is your what you can say the beam arrangements under testing, right? You can see that what are the load deflections behavior. B1, B2, B3. That is B1 is the basically the lower reinforcement. B2 is the second, and B3 is the your. So if you see that, if we increase the amount of tension reinforcement, naturally your load carrying capacity of the member is increases. It's quite natural. And B4, B5, and B1. B1 is the same, which is initial one. In this case, this is for the different percentage of steel in compression reinforcement. Or that if we add the compression reinforcement, how the load carrying capacity increases. So if we see here that if we add the compression reinforcement, load carrying capacity also increases, which is normally the same as your normal concrete. Now, calculate the moment of resistance increases with the increase of percentage of steel. So, if we increase the percentage of steel, this is your experimental. That is, if we know this load value, you can know what is the your UMA, that is the moment carrying capacity. This is your experimental, and this is basically your theoretical, right? That is theoretical moment of value is comparatively, sorry, this is your theoretical. This values is comparatively your for both are in these cases. You see, if you increase the percentage of steel tension reinforcements, values are increases. The same is also applicable for your MU and MR. So this is basically your MU. This is your experimental, and this is your theoretical. So here it is now we are getting theoretical value is less and experimental value is higher. Always, if we go for any beam test, or even in your normal concrete, your experimental value of moment of resistance will be higher than your normal your theoretical values. Thus, for your there are some other effects. Normally, we call your arch effect. So that effect is not taken into account in your theoretical effect. That's why these values are always higher. This is your microstructures. This is for the normal concrete. I'm not going to detail of this. Just to simple that this is your aggregate. This is taken from PK method. This is a very important theories we are using. That this is the aggregate, and these plate-like structures, basically your calcium hydroxide. Hello. These are plate-like structures, and these are basically the CSH gel. And whenever the concrete, any concrete is fails, basically it fails along this boundary, right? That is a boundary of the aggregate, and this boundary and these zones we call normally the interfacial transition zone, ITZ. Why it is fails in ITZ? You see here in your ITZ there is a less amount of this CSH gel. Maximum is calcium hydroxide, and the calcium hydroxide structures, it is a plate-like structure, and the behavior of these plates is that it is always perpendicular to the surface of the aggregate.
So your voice is not coming. Any participant is able to hear me? Seems some network issue. I think.
It's not audible, sir.
Yes, my voice is audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. So there might be some network issue at the Professor Mandal's side in Kolkata. I will just message. Professor Mandal sir, are you able to hear me? Professor Mandal sir, your voice is not coming.
Initial part. Next, we have
Okay,
also studied.
it is now coming, sir. Yes, sir. Now it is okay.
Not coming.
Now
Not
it is
visible.
coming. Now visible as well as voice is coming, sir.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Now I just to give some some scope of future research, right? So first thing is I have already told you to minimize the amount of heat energy so that you can use for the normal construction, right? And we have tried, and one of our students has already done his PhD to develop a mix with the addition of other materials, and we have tried with addition of nano silica. It is a long process. I am not going to detail of this. Basically, and with this nano silica, we can achieve that if we do not provide any heat, we can get a strength normal to the concrete. And another important thing is that we have done is the process modification. The normal thing, that is, if we want to produce a very small scale precast industry, you can change the process modification, and it can be done you can reduce your heat energy, or you can change the process modifications. And one of the students has also done these process modifications. Right? What we have done, just give us some this how this process modification has been done. In your conventional process, that is the right part, that is what is called your process 2. This is very common. Everybody is used both in research and both in other precast industries. You can see that sand, fly ash, and dry mixes for 2 minutes, NaOH and sodium silicate and water is added. Then appropriate amount of activator fluid is added and mixed with dry mixture. Mind it, here we have added only with mortar because it is a very initial stage. We don't put any aggregate. That's why we only use sand and fly ash, right? We do not use any coarse aggregate. So what we have done it here, this is the normal phase is sand and fly ash is mixed. Then we add the activator liquid. We get a mortar, and then it is specimen is or it is mortar specimen has been taken, and it is heat activated at different temperature for activations, and then after removal it is go for testing, right? What we have suggested in your proposed 2, which is suitable for your any industry, right? What we have done here, we just fly ash and activated, we just mix. We are not putting any sand here. And then we put a activation here. That is, we use only 45 minutes instead of 48 hours. We use only 45 minutes for different temperatures, right? Say 40 degrees C, 60 degrees C, 80 degrees C. Instead of 48 hours, we make only 45 minutes. Mind it, we are reducing the heat energy. We are just only 45 minutes instead of 48 hours. So what we have done it here, at different temperatures we have done, just like your 40, 60, 80. And this mixture, that is when it is under workable conditions, we put a sand. So after 45 minutes, it is remains in your drum with a 45 minutes, and then we add some sand, right? So then after 10 to 12 hours, casting of the specimen is removed from the mold, and that is a normal curing. Don't put any heat activation here, right? So this is what is called your process 1. So only in these cases, heat energy is less, right? Instead of conventional method, we propose this method. And now I am showing here, that is process 1 is your less heat, that is heat cured for fly ash and activated fluid for 45 minutes. Process 1, this is G7, G8 like this. This is so this and these columns are process 1, and this is the process 2. That is your heat oven curing for 48 hours, right? So that is the difference. Now, if we see to this figure, that is your process 1 and process 2. See, in these cases, that is that your process 1 mortar at fluid to fly ash ratio of 0.25, activated at 60 degrees C or 45 years, is about 16% more than process 2. Orthat process 1 we are getting higher strength compared to the process 2 at both at fluid to fluid ratio 0.35 and fluid to fluid ratio of 0.48. So this basically 2, 1 and 3, these are basically your process 1, and the lower one, this 4, 5 and 6, basically your lower one you get a higher value. So these are getting a higher value. So basically, if you see here, if we put your fluid to for a particular fluid to fires, if your process 1 always gives the higher values. So process 1 is basically G13, 14 and 15. So this is your process 1 and this is your process 2. So if you see here, at all ages, process 1 gives a higher value compared to process 2. Right? Now, what is the reason behind it? Naturally, in this case, what I have seen that when we mix the only fly ash and your in your what is called your activator fluid, the mixing becomes very uniform. So it can mixing is become more uniform and it becomes say you get a very good amount of paste. But whenever you put some amount of sand after that, so naturally your mortar, that is the paste becomes uniformly inside your in your sand. But in your initial, that is the earlier case, this is the process 2, where sand and fly ash is mixed, and then we add some activator. There is some mismatch with activator and the fly ash. So that's why we are seeing that the process 1 is better than process 2. Even in your flexural strength also, we are getting a process 1, that is G1, G2 and G3. We are getting a G1 and G4 that is higher than this. This is higher than this, and this is also higher than this. Similarly, the flexural strength also we have checked, it is higher than this. What's the time now? Okay. Now we have also find out the split tensile strength. So process 1 gives the higher value compared to the process 2. And then we have also some durability tests. I am not going to detail of this. We are getting higher value in process 1 compared to the process 2. So I'm not going to detail of this because already we have 1.5 hours. So based on this performance of the process modified geopolymer concrete, we have seen that GPC1, that is your process 1, that is better than your, that is a major benefit you can get in case of your precast industry. Anybody can use it directly. Now I am coming to the economic benefits of the whole project that I have already discussed in the initial, that is 31% saving has been already done. Cost of 1 ton of fly ash is only a small fraction, even not free in some parts, although in nowadays it is available with a very minimal amount. Now 1 meter cube of alkali activated fly ash concrete, we have checked, it is costing around 1870 for 1 meter cube, and for 1 meter cube normal concrete, normally we use 2720, so saving about 31%. So naturally other cost, that is only you have uses in the material cost here, and 1 ton of fly ash utilization earns 1 carbon credit. That is one of the major benefits in this case. So fly ash based geopolymer concrete has excellent compressive strength and is suitable for many infrastructure applications. Design provisions contained in the current standard and codes are applicable to the design of fly ash based geopolymer concrete. And in this case, I can already mention you that very recently IS code or the Bureau of Indian Standard has published a code on not on geopolymer concrete. They have named as alkali activated concrete for precast blocks. They have already developed, and you can go to this. I think the code number is 17452. IS 17452. You can get this. This is very recently. It is published in 2021, and there is some limitations also. But they have given about that what binding materials you have to use, what are the range of mixed designs they have given, and they have also suggested that temperature should be always more than 30 degrees C depending upon your heat activation. So, but minimum temperature 30 degrees C is to be given. Accordingly, your duration is to be increased, right? So, this is a very good positive sign that Bureau of Indian Standard has developed a code on geopolymer concrete for precast industries or precast products. This is your references. You can go to that large number of references. One of my PhD students. Next, I can come to the acknowledgement. Professor J. Sanjan from Monash University was jointly with us in so many projects. Hamida Mohammad Saman, UTI Malaysia. Professor V.V. Rangan, he is the pioneer in fly ash concrete, University Cotton. Professor P.K. Sarkar, University of Cotton, and one of the research scholars, Dr. Dipesh Majumdar, Santanu Pal, Dr. D. Adok of Civil Engineering Department. Regarding the publications, it is in, I think, 2014 that I already discussed the effect of nanosilicon strength and durability of fly ash-based geopolymer concrete. That is an advantage. There is a research value that you can, if we can use nanosilica, we can omit that your heat activation in that case. There are some antimicrobial efficiency of nano silver silica modified geopolymer mortar for eco-friendly green construction products. This is in Royal Service of Royal Society of Chemistry Advances. And then you can get a construction and building materials, structural performance of nanosilica modified fire-based geopolymer concrete. It is in construction building materials. Study of modified process that is already discussed, that for the development of fly ash-based geopolymer mortar cured at ambient temperature. And another one is generic and enriched micro-facilitated self-sealing concrete, a sustainable material for new generation construction technology. Thank you. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity for this lecture. Now we can ask any questions. I am handing over to Professor Agarwal.
Yes, sir. So nice of you, sir. First of all, there was a slight snack in between for about 2-3 minutes. So one of the participants and many participants were keenly interested in not missing even a slide. So I request one of the participants to kindly point out the microstructure slide which was missed. So they wanted it, if you may kindly repeat that particular 1 or 2 slides.
Actually, I am.
I may, Sanchit Gupta may kindly point out which part we have missed. संचित जी, आपको मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
सर
हाँ, काइंडली आप जरा सा बताएं सर, जो है उस पर्टिकुलर एक दो स्लाइड्स।
सर जब आईटीजेड के बारे में बात कर रहे थे सर, उस समय जो है सर का स्लाइड मिस हो गया था।
यस सर, वो इंटरनेट प्रॉब्लम कुछ हो गई थी बीच में सर, तो उस वजह से माइक्रो स्ट्रक्चर जहां आप बता रहे थे, कन्वेंशनल कंक्रीट का आप बता रहे थे, वहां पे बीच में अटक गया था और फिर प्रोसेस जहां से आपने शुरू किया तो वहां से कंटिन्यू हुआ था।
So I'll start again.
नहीं, वो केवल वो दो
माइक्रो स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ जियोपॉलीमर एक बार आप बता देते बस।
So one of the slides has been not coming due to that I think the network issues. Am I right?
Yes sir.
Any question?
इसके अलावा और कोई क्वेश्चन हो किसी भी पार्टिसिपेंट का तो कृपया, if any question other than this,
any question you can ask freely. Any question you can ask freely.
मेरा एक क्वेश्चन था आपसे। सर मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि आपने जो है माइक्रोवेव ओवन में जब मोल्ड को रखा, व्हेन यू केप्ट योर मोल्ड इन माइक्रोवेव ओवन, देन यू आर प्रोवाइडिंग ड्राई हीट टू द कंक्रीट.
Pardon?
Sir, when you had put your cube in the microwave oven, then you are providing dry heat to the concrete. Sir, it may affect the formation of CSH gel.
I can't. Sorry, I can't hear you actually properly. Just a minute. I am changing my microphone. You can write also in that case if there is any problem. Any question from the chat box?
Participants who
Sir,
wish to ask.
Yes. When I kept one question from Sanjeev is written, when you have kept your cube in the oven, you are providing dry heat. Yes, I am providing dry heat. But in this case, it may affect the formation of CH gel. In this case, CH gel is not formed, right? Basic the CH is formed only in case of your in your concrete, if you concrete, or in case of a slag also. But in my cases, as I am using fly ash, so there is no chances of reduction in CH gel.
good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I have one question. Like there are a lot of studies which say that not all geopolymers are geopolymers. Some are also alkali activated materials. So, did your team verify? If so, how did they classify whether it is geopolymer or only an alkali activated material?
You see, basically, geopolymer, the term is a very confusing, right? Geopolymer, there is no terms like a geopolymer. Whenever you're talking about the geopolymer, you have to say geopolymer paste, geopolymer mortar, geopolymer concrete, or you have to say geopolymer composites like this, right? But alkali activated fly ash is basically we are putting fly ash. When you put some your alkali, that is activation, that is called your alkali activation. That is the difference, basic difference. So only geopolymer does not have a direct impact on that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
If there are no other questions, may we close? Any participants, if wish to ask any further questions, may do so.
Anybody, any kind of questions can be asked.
So I take this opportunity to express my gratitude on behalf of Rajasthan Technical University and my personal behalf to Professor Mandal sir. Professor Mandal sir, the participant is again writing that can we view that particular slide on microstructure of geopolymer again, sir, if possible.
Just I'm checking whether it is possible or not. This is available?
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
I will go to that your. This is available? No. There are two one. This one.
Sanchit ji, can you please point out whether
Yes. Sir, we could not listen to you explain the XRD graph from there on, like these 3 slides.
After this.
Yeah, sir, from the XRD slide, just before that one.
Slide number 81.
Acha, acha. You see, there is a. Here is basically this different peaks are coming, right? So out of which this has been the moolite, that is the basic of this. And I think there is another peak is here also, another peak is here also. So very not clear, I think. So from that we can check that about that due to this mullite, albite, and silica and nitroselite and quartz, this has been the formation of new compounds.
Okay, sir. So now it's now we followed. Thank you, sir, for giving the time.
Thank you very much, Professor Mandal sir, for explaining again, sir. And this has given too much interest to the participants, and so many have written on the chat box that it had been a very wonderful session. And we are very much grateful to you, sir. So you covered from fundamental to in-depth knowledge, and it has aroused interest to in the researcher's mind. So thank you so much, and we will.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all the participants.
All the participants, kindly note that we will meet again at 3:20 p.m. All the participants, please take your lunch and rest, and we will meet again. Thank you, Mandal sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again. So.